o'clock, so we will make a start. We're all live streaming. Okay, so formally like to welcome members and members of the public to Development Management Meeting, West End Borough Council, Tuesday, 14th of December. Just so that you are aware, the meeting is being live streamed on both YouTube and Facebook, and that is where members of the public can watch what's going on. As we are all very much aware, the COVID sensitivities are heightened, so I would ask that unless you're actually speaking, if you could please keep a face mask on unless you're exempt, but would ask that perhaps it might be helpful if when you're speaking, if you do remove it, it just helps for clarity for people to hear. Don't realise that you have a certain amount of hearing loss until you can't see what people are saying. So we're not expecting a fire drill. So in the event the fire alarm does go off, it's the real McCoy. So please do make your way downstairs and out of the building to the far end of the car park. And the fire marshal is Mrs. Hall, who is sat over here, and she will lead the way. Again, in terms, because the meeting is being live streamed, then could I also ask that members, particularly in offices, please to use your microphones. Remember to use your microphones. I don't want to have to interrupt you, but if you speaking without a microphone, I will do, okay, because that's the only way the live stream will pick up. Equally for the registered speakers, and I think Mrs. Hall has probably briefed you all, but there are microphones on the side, and if you pick one up yourself when you're called for to speak, put it on the podium, turn it on. There's the button on the side, which you turn it on, which brings the power on. Then the button on the front allows you to talk. When you have finished, then please just replace it underneath the table so that a fresh one is taken by the next registered speaker. And I realise for the first two applications that the same registered speakers for both. So if you kind of remember which one yours is, or even take it back to your seat with you, then you can use that one again next time round. I hope that makes sense. Just want to try and keep everybody as safe as possible. So in terms of how planning applications are presented, they're always presented in the same order, and which is that the case officer presents their report. We then have our registered speakers, each of whom will have 3 minutes in which to speak. Then if a ward member is registered, then they will be able to speak at the end, and they do have 5 minutes. They have a bit longer. Members of the committee are also able to question each speaker on points of clarity, okay, just to help them in their understanding. Once we've exhausted the questions, then the application is, or the officer recommendation is moved and seconded. That's usually done by myself and the vice chair, and that's just to enable it to go into debate. And once members have debated, they will then vote and come to a decision. In the event that the decision is against an officer's report or officer's recommendation, then that would be on material planning reasons, and members will then discuss those particular material reasons and vote on again. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I'm going to ask, I'm just going to ask the officers around the table. We do have some officers at the back, and I will introduce them if they are called in, if they do need to speak, rather than go around introducing everybody. We'll be here all morning else. So I'll start with Mr. Fairbairn, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm David Fairbairn. I'm Head of Legal Services and Monitoring Officer and the Legal Advisor to the committee this morning.
Good morning. I'm Councillor Terry Pearce. I'm the Ward Member for Mary Tavy and Vice Chairman of the DM and L Committee.
Forgot to say who I was, didn't I, after all that? I'm Councillor Julie Yelland, and I'm the Chairman of the committee.
Good morning. I'm Pat Weimer. I'm Head of Development Management for the Council.
Morning, my name is Bryn Kitching. I'm the Planning Officer presenting the first two items at Plymouth Road, Tavistock.
Microphone, please.
Sorry, Chair, I thought it was on. Cathy Hall from Democratic Services, and I will be clerking the meeting this morning. Thank you.
Caroline Mott, Ward Member for Bridestow.
Tony Leach, Ward Member Oakhampton North.
Diana Moyes, Ward Member for Burrator.
Mandy Ewings, Ward Member for Tavistock South West.
Terry Southcott, Ward Member for Bridestow.
Paul Vachon, Ward Member for Oakhampton South.
Mark Renders, Ward Member for Dartmoor.
And my name is Barry Ratcliffe, and I'm the Ward Member for Expoor.
Thank you. Okay, so we move to the agenda. Is item 1, apologies for absence, Mrs Hall?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Spetague, and Councillor Mandy Ewings is subbing for him. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2 is declarations of interest. So in accordance with the Code of Conduct, members are invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests, including the nature and extent of such interests they may have in any terms, to be considered at this meeting. Anything to declare, anybody? Councillor Leach.
It's not actually an interest, but application 0352/21 full. Because I called this in, I'm slightly concerned that people may think that I've predetermined this. So I won't be taking part, but I would like to speak as ward member.
Okay, yes, I have you down to register to speak. So you're saying you won't be taking part or voting on this one. Is that what you're saying? Okay, thank you. Councillor Renders.
I've received a number of bits of correspondence from one of the applicants on this that I have read. It hasn't affected anything, but I think it needs to be declared.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll declare a personal interest as being a member of the Devon Building Control Partnership, and also I've received correspondence for the applicant for the first two applications.
Thank you. Just for sort of avoidance of doubt, I think all members have received correspondence, and those have been. That there is a protocol that members of the Development Management Committee need to follow in terms of responding to any lobbying, and that has been followed. Councillor Ewing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to say that I have been lobbied for the last 2 years with regard to the first two applications, and it has all been recorded.
Thank you. And can you confirm that you're coming with an open mind to this hearing?
I'm coming with a totally open mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ratcliffe as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also, like Councillor Pearce, am a member of the Devon Building Control Partnership.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So moving to item 3 is items requiring urgent attention, and I don't have any currently. Item 4 is the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of November. They can be found on pages 1 to 6 of your agenda. Are there any errors and omissions on pages 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Actually, they finish on page 5. Page 6 is blank. Is everybody happy that I sign them as a true and accurate record? Lovely. Thank you. Planning performance indicators here on the agenda. I don't think that is actually, we don't have any planning performance indicators. We haven't had any paperwork. No, that's an error on the agenda. Okay, too busy looking at the planning applications, didn't spot that one. Item 6, planning applications. So we now move to the first one, which is 072321 full, found on page 7 of your agenda, and I will hand over to the planning officer to make his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'm going to present two applications. We're going to take them separately. So I'm going to present the first one up in front of you, 072321 full, land at Plymouth Road, Tavistock. This is an application, a hybrid application. So an application was made part in outline and part in full. So the full part of the application is for 44 residential dwellings and the formation of the access and the public space. The outline element is for 0.76 of a hectare of commercial land. That's a use class EG. Use class EG is what was formerly known as use class B1, which was sort of office, R&D, and light industrial, a sort of use class which can take place next to residential dwellings. So it's hybrid, with the full part being for the residential dwellings, the outline part being for the commercial. Application site was subject to a member's site visit on Thursday. Application site's outlined here. Just in terms of context, we've got Plymouth Road. This is the Tesco's here, Morrison's here, Hawthorne Road here, and this is where we met for our site visit. And then we walked up the unnamed lane, across, and accessed the site here near Brook Lane and in, and then we wandered through the site to about that point there. So the application in the JLP is allocated under policy TTV 17. So our application site is this darker blue land. The overall allocation is for about 19 hectares of land. Our application is about 4 hectares on this darker blue piece of land here. And just to give some context in terms of its position, in terms of Tavistock, the AONB and the National Park, we have the application site here in this sort of darker brown over those 3 fields. The red bit is showing the commercial site. This yellow land shows the remainder of that TTV 17 allocation. In fact, that allocation does include a piece of land here as well. And then on this plan, you can see the AONB to the southwest, and then off to the east is the National Park. Application site comprises 3 fields, bounded by an unnamed lane running along the southern and eastern boundary. We've got Plymouth Road along the front here. In between the application site and Plymouth Road, we have the line of the old Plymouth Road. So we have a sort of double tree-lined, still hard standing there, but quite sort of dark and inaccessible at the moment. That is outside of the application site. Also running along, we have Brook Lane running up from around about here and onto the unnamed lane here. So when we did the site visit, we walked up to this area here. This is where we accessed the site off the unnamed lane, off Brook Lane there. Proposed layout, the part in full includes the access into the site and 44 dwellings in this area here. Also includes pedestrian access through along the old Plymouth Road and out onto the new Plymouth Road by the bus stops. This area here is shown as is public open space, but also drainage, so some underground water storage for infiltration under this area here. That was on the steeply sloping part of the site running down towards the Tiddybrook and Lidl's car park beyond. We have this enclave of development for 5 dwellings here. This is to be accessed via Brook Lane and the unnamed lane, so an access point here with no vehicle access through route into the main site. So this always works as a sort of separate parcel of residential accessed off Brook Lane. The rest of the 39 dwellings and employment would be accessed off the Plymouth Road here, with a road, a sort of main road running through the site, which takes into account the levels on the site, because it does slope quite steeply in places down from the south to the north. That road would break through the existing hedge line here and existing hedge line here. In terms of the outline part, what we have is an indicative layout here of a sort of light industrial building. This building is showing at approximately 2,500 square metres assuming that half of that building has mezzanine within it. So the footprint's about 1,800 square metres, but if it had a half mezzanine in, then it takes it up to about 2,500. Yeah, this is indicative. The only part of the outline we've been asked to determine is the access into it. Just to give you some context I've mentioned the Tiddy Brook, which runs on the blue line here. This plan is also here to show the sort of the larger allocation, which does include this area here as well. But there was a previous, there's an existing planning permission on the site next door, often known as the Linden Permission, or sometimes Vistry, as the company who took over Linden. That has an outline planning consent for 250 houses and 2 hectares of commercial land. I'm going to show you this in terms of that. This is the illustrative master plan from that application. That would be my pointer has disappeared. So this is showing a layout of the indicative layout master plan for that Linden Vistry permission. Our site is to the north of the land. I do apologise, my pointer has disappeared. Again, bear with me one moment. If you just bear with me one moment, Chair, I'll just see if I can get it displayed in a different way so I've got the pointer available. I think we've got it here. I'm going to move very slowly on this one. So the application site being the area of land here, and this plan showing the larger part of the allocation and the consent next door, the outline consent for residential in the sort of yellows and browns and employment in the blues area here, so 2 hectares there. This is just an aerial photograph where we tried to, where that plan I just showed you is almost overlaid on there. So indicative only, but just again so you can see a bit of context in terms of what that indicative plan showed and our application site in the red. The housing layout is a mix of bungalows, sort of chalet bungalows, and 2-storey dwellings. So the yellow being the straight bungalows, 1-storey dwellings. The orange being bungalows, but with accommodation in the roof, so chalet bungalows. The pinks here being 2-storey dwellings, and the red on this point here is a 2-storey dwelling with rooms in the roof as well, so 2.5-storey, if you like. So a layout which is trying to use the slope, and it also involves quite a bit of cut and fill. I will refer to a retaining wall later, and that is this dark line here. So these dwellings to the north sit on much lower land than the dwellings up here to the south, and that's to deal with the slopes on the site. As I say, it's quite steeply sloping. Members will have seen that from the site visit, and to get sort of level access into each dwelling, which each have a garage and 2 parking spaces, requires retaining features as part of cut and fill. The access into the site is off Plymouth Road, the access point being about here. So the poplar trees to the left are to be retained, with a new access point here, which involves the introduction of a right turn lane. Plymouth Road at this point is wide enough and has a central area where it is possible to put in that right turn lane without requiring any further road widening. This is a view from Hawthorne Drive, looking down towards, well, we have Lidl's just around the corner there. And that highways works, as I said, involves a right turn lane using that central area there, the access into the site, which then provides access into the employment, as well as access route round to the residential. Also including pedestrian access, I mentioned down the line of the old Plymouth Road. So pedestrian route down through the old Plymouth Road, and then out at this point here. This is where the bus stops are on either side of a central crossing island. Other off-site works include putting in drop curbs or tactile paving. That's what would be the old access into the old Plymouth Road, and where there's a vehicle car wash at the moment next to the Lidl car park. Application also includes a new uncontrolled pedestrian crossing point on Hawthorne Drive. I'll show you a bit more detail in a moment on that. Involves pedestrian links up onto the unnamed lane at this point here, and also this point here, pedestrian link. And then this box here in the corner is this enclave area that's having a separate access in for those 5 dwellings. That crossing point I just mentioned, this being the access. So in this call-out box here, we have the access with the right turn